Before we begin, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for coming and to remind you, I didn't have to used to do this with graduate students, but recently I've discovered that they're getting just as bad as undergrads. Please turn off or silence your cell phones or any other devices that you have that beep or make noise. This is our first event of the new school year, and it seems fitting to begin by welcoming back recent graduates who have gone on to publish work and to teach and to make their way into the literary community. That's what this program is about, is supporting people as they move forward in their aspirations as artists and writers. Our next event will be on the 3rd of October, a Thursday, at 7:45 in the Mamashi Room. We will be welcoming poet Patricia Smith. It will be a packed event, so get there early so you can get your seats. She is a phenomenon, and you will want to be there. Speaking of phenomena, since I had the pleasure to be a teacher to each of these three poets, I am going to crib a little bit from the thesis letters that I wrote for these young women when they were graduating from USF. I want to say a little bit about each of them as well. Sage Curtis, our first reader, has published a chapbook, Trash Can Funeral, published this year. She was also named a Litquake Writer on the Verge in 2017. I love that. Woo! Writer on the Verge. So this is what I wrote about Sage's work when I was grading her thesis. Life isn't always pretty, even when it's fun. There's deep pathos hidden in these poems as they search among the glitter dresses and shattered wine glasses for something to hold on to. The use of the 12-step manual as a triggering device leads the reader through a course of courageous witness, snapping unforgettable shots of the ball as Cinderella flees and all of the magic and illusion dispels into its former self. Broken shoe, cigarette burns, and a bed of ashes. Characters from children's books and fairy tales confront their wrinkles in the mirror lest they fall through it, down the dark, dark hole like Alice stepping into the looking glass. Please welcome Sage Curtis. Woo!
Happy to be back here, and thank you, Doug. I will say that I definitely cried when I got my thesis letter, probably for days, actually. I'm so happy to be back. And you also helped me make my decision about where I'm going to start. So this is my chapbook, Trash Can Funeral. I have copies, I'll say that once at the beginning, once at the end. You have to buy them from me because my distribution sucks. So just come over and ask me if I want to buy one. This one's called Cinderella. This ball, glitter dust trails, it didn't start here. In every Cinderella, there's hiding rags and cigarette burns and a bed of ashes. They all deserve two birds squatting on their collarbones, singing songs of advice, but sometimes they get left to wipe up empty restaurant tables. They are trying to escape by putting on a dress, some heels, finding a man who won't let go of their hand, who is fooled by a few hours of fancy. Show up solo and ready to disappear when things might just start looking up. Get drunk, lose a shoe, run to the bass line of a bird song. How many toes will they sacrifice before they decide to settle down or give themselves up or hide high in a tree? Before they were broken, they broke things themselves. One left a slipper sitting on the stoop steps. It wasn't meant to be a clue or the key to anything to save herself. It was just a shoe, another lost, broken thing. And then I'm going to read this one. So it's kind of like my, this is my sort of signature poem, I guess. I like to read this one. The women in my family. The women in my family hit the bottle hard, hit our men with closed fists and side eyes and sharp tongue hard. No romance novels or candelabras. We say, I don't believe in soulmates and hold on to grudges and smoke pipes on a dark, dark beach, lose cell phone in water-hard sand. The women in my family run away to California, North Carolina, to Florida and New York. We are running high octane on high stakes, on full throttle, non-stop juice. We run in little red four-doors with a cat in the passenger seat, in trailers hitched to a truck, all we own falling on the floor with every bump, in Mustang convertibles with tearing leather and empty water bottles. The women in my family tell stories about fighting boys for crossing a line and leaving a man stunned with divorce on the bank of the bayou and packing up the last box not a day too soon and getting the fuck out of some still hometown and putting a fist in the chest to break the heart of the man behind it. The women in my family tell these stories as myths, where we come from. We don't plan on stopping our hitting and our running and our middle finger up moments. I am saying we are hardwired to hide our feral in pink lace bras and spit, all the untamed in our thick lipstick. We're not fit to be caged, housebroken, or wifed up. I'm not saying this to say sorry. The women in my family, we like being this way. Our packed suitcases, tucked away bottles of booze, a set of car keys. We're not going to say sorry or mean it. We are not going to stay. Okay, and I think I want to read some new stuff, if you guys will let me. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this one's called All Y'all, and it's a hustle. I fall in love 6 times on the train with all y'all. I type out a message on the group chat to tell all y'all. As I love everyone in this room as in burst, all this fucking love, y'all. I stayed out late last night until 2 a.m. I am damn tired, but man, I love dancing with y'all. I roll the world around in my mouth, let the Y flip off my tongue, hold the L's in my throat, drawl all y'all. When my mother taught me ABCs, W's were W. I stood out in California classes with all y'all. My mother, her mother, this is their love language. What are all y'all drinking? I wonder sometimes if the word is mismatched in my mouth. What I'm saying is, I worry a lot, y'all. I say, Sage, those words are your roots. They pulse and plant and gnarl through all y'all. Thank you. Let's do... Forgive me, I have a lot of paper. Let's do this one. This one's called Root Flare. 1. In 1933, in Georgia's sun, peach grows precede peach fuzz. My grandmother, just a girl, took a boy's hand, a second-grade love so juiced it lasted 66 years, poured out into 2 children they couldn't afford. In this family, forever means before we can even remember. Maybe it's in our blood, maybe it's the road, open like the eye of a storm, our nerves, the knowing of not taking it. The women in this family know all too well what happens when you let go of Cookie's sticky fingers. 2, 1953. Maybe it's just that leaving was his love language and being a launch pad was hers. A girl born to childhood sweethearts doesn't develop a sweet tooth until both her parents are long gone. She looks for forever in the habitual loosening of her bolts, the greasing of her throat. When the road called for her, she brought a whole damn state west with her, only leaving God behind. Her skin tells the story of 2 sunshine states, 2 husbands, 2 daughters alive and 2 dead. She keeps having chunks of herself cut out. 3, 2019. I never call the man I love my childhood sweetheart, never tell him I use food long after the expiration date. I dig my roots so deep that the eye of the storm only tickles my teeth. In a little yellow house, I grow a garden full of things that can't die, because forever means before I can remember. And before I can remember, my body learned that habitual loving means the road is always there. I keep cutting chunks of this story out. I'm lucky to be alive. I'll do this one too. This one's called Manifesting a Mansion. Tonight, we dream this house our own. Fill the plaster walls with the scent of future years. It'll be easy, I say. Knock this wall down, build a staircase. You at the guardrail, mentally rip out the tile. We've already hung the art on the hooks and wires, fucked against the kitchen cabinets. Let the yellow paint bleed into the marrow of us. Sip on beer and run the numbers. I draw plans in a small notebook reserved for daydreamed blueprints. I water the pears. What I mean to say is, I've moved in and still want more. A permission to draw the years into the door frame, to never worry about the scratches on the hardwood because I put them there, and they are mine. That's my newest one. Thanks, guys. So I have a question for you guys. I know you're here for poetry, but I have a very, very short lyrical essay that I'd like to try to read, if you guys are down for it. Yeah? Okay. I wrote 3 essays over the summer, and I have not written prose in this way in like, I don't know, at least 7 years, if not longer than that. And I knocked out 3 real quick. This one's called Wreckage. My mother sits in the same spot on the couch every morning. The fabric wears on the armrest where she reaches for her coffee sat on the end table. She drinks 2 cups, sweetened, while she reads the newspaper. In her spot on the couch, we read together after dinner. When I was young, she'd read to me, but soon I'd read to her. This time was ours for years. A tree grows in Brooklyn, gone with the wind to kill a mockingbird. Sometimes she told me stories about herself, of the South, of our own mythologies. The majority of wine grapes can trace their lineage back to one type of vine, Vitis vinifera. The fruit is grown to be small, thick-skinned, and riddled with seeds. Controlling the vigor of the vine is important for production. The more control, the better the wine. Depending on the grape and environment, harvesting can happen during the day or the night. It all depends on how the sugar levels stabilize. In those years, I'd get put to bed and she'd stay awake on the couch watching TV. Sometimes I'd sneak out of my bed and lay in the hallway off the living room listening. I'd press my body against the wall as close as I could get, thinking I was hidden until she'd tell me to go to bed. She could see my shadow. The living room TV would eventually be moved to the master bedroom in favor of something bigger. My father sprawled out in front of the news set. My mother withdrew to watch by herself in their room. I started closing my bedroom door to keep out the noise while I read to myself. Grapes are susceptible to large number of diseases, particularly in humid summer climates. They can rot at the roots. There was always family dinner around my grandmother's mahogany table. On any given night, it might go how you'd expect: eat, discuss the day, clean up. On any given night, it might go south: a slammed fist, a knocked over chair, a flipped plate of food. I inherited my grandmother's silverware stored in the china cabinet my whole life. On special occasions, my mother unpacked the hutch. It was my job to polish. There's a minute in the evening when all the air is vacuumed out of the room. Sometimes it sounds like, "Have you brushed your teeth yet?" over and over. Sometimes it looks like wiping the same spot on the counter over and over. I inherited my father's insomnia. I keep late hours even in my teens. Often I'm awake at midnight or even later to see my mother sleepwalk naked in the dark hallways. I whisper, ask her what she's doing, She just stares for a second, turns, goes back to bed. In the wreckage of the Titanic is the oldest stocked wine cellar. Even after the sinking and sitting at the bottom of the ocean, most of the bottles were found intact. Other nights, I make my way to my room only to hear her speaking across the hall, sometimes shouting, always with her eyes closed. I know because I go check, stand by her bedside, put my hand on top of hers to stop the thrashing. In the Mosel Valley, Riesling grapes are grown on steep hillsides. The vines planted in porous stone, pieces of this stone come loose, roll down the slopes, and mix in with the soil, making it fertile. My mother told me she wasn't supposed to have us. The doctors had told her so. Before I was born, she miscarried, her uterus scarred from a routine and dated IUD. I was a minor medical miracle, my sister even more. The earliest example of wine in literature is in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Siduri, the goddess of wine, attempts to dissuade our hero from his quest to mortality by offering him the earthly pleasures of life. What my mother didn't tell me was that her scars were not so simple. Yes, it could have been the IUD, but it also could have been the trip from Florida to New York when she was 17. It was 1970, and her parents drove her up and back down the coast. She cried the whole way home. In 1970, Norma McCorvey had raised a case against Henry Wade. She won in the Supreme Court in 1973. We all know this history. She was later quoted that participating in the legal action was the greatest mistake of her life. On a hot day in California, I'm 27. My mother tells me she knows she didn't make a mistake going to New York, but she's haunted with the shame of it. She tells me it's important because it's something I care about, something I fight for. She says, I wanted to tell you because it matters now. Thank you guys for letting me do that. I'm going to read the poem that's related to that essay. Poem came first, essay came later, because that's how my brain rolls. Letting the wind in, after Hills Like the White Elephants. I always thought I was second in line that starts with a ghost girl, but today she told me a story, a trip to New York, hugging the coast all the way up, of parents, of dips in the road that sent shooting pains up her spine. Suddenly, I become third. She says, cried the whole way there and back, says, I didn't know Roe and Wade were coming yet, says, I didn't say before because I wanted to save you. I tell her, like trees, we pass on broken seeds in our roots. I want to tell her the wind has changed now, that when it blows through a forest of mothers and living daughters, it doesn't smell like hospital rooms and buildings with hidden entrances, but instead I say, I wish you told me sooner. Okay, I think I'm going to go back to the book. Leave you with something lighter. The book is lighter. So this is what happens this is what happened to me, at least in the MFA. I started with these poems, like these are not, like some of these came from the MFA, some of them like versions beforehand, but like started with this version of the story and I wound up with this version of the story. And then I had to figure out how to like use these old poems to respect like what's happening. Still, it's still happening. I'm still writing the bigger manuscript. I don't know if it'll ever end. What did you say that one time, Preeti? Aren't we always writing about our mothers? Yeah. Okay. So this one's called Instructions for Girls in Glitter Dresses, and it's after Makeshift Instructions for Vigilante Girls by Erica Meitner. Amazing book. Highly recommend it. Everything by Erica Meitner, but specifically this one. Instruction for Girls in Glitter Dresses. Be the loudest one in the room. Flash your teeth. Watch out for the ones who try to buy you pink lemonade and champagne, try to call you sugar, show you Pollocks hanging their apartments. When there are songs to, dance alone. She got a lot of pretty, pretty boys she calls friends. Wear the knife in the band of your bra, they will feel it. Flirt for the women at home doing dishes, but be careful, do not become one. Not if someone offers you a key, the empty drawer of a dresser, or a fish hook for your left ring finger. Try not to put your fingerprints on anything. Bring steel wool and combat boots. Leave just before breakfast is served. Wear your dress like silicone. Be shocked when men are shocked by the words you spit. Be remembered but not chased after. Later, read his text messages. What are you doing? And don't blink, big eyes. Get pushed up in a sequin corset and ready to chase the night moths. I should have listened to her. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and I'll leave you with one more. It's the last poem in this tiny little book. And it's called Eschatology, which is the study of last things. The last song on the radio was Our Last Dance. Quickly on the fire escape while the city smoked under us. Last minute plans to get the fuck out, your suitcase packed with the last photograph of last summer. It was the last straw. When the last kiss I gave wasn't to you, and that was my last chance. We're both hell-bent on having the last word. I'm shouting with my last breath. The quiet of last call hangs heavy on the last hour before dawn. I ask one last question. How do you know when it's over? Thank you, guys.
Speaking of books, I would be remiss to neglect to mention that the USF bookstore has kindly come amongst us this evening and has copies of collections by each of these writers. So please stick around after, buy some books, get them signed. Virginia Barrett has 2 recent collections out. She came here already writing and publishing poems. Her most recent collections are Between Looking from Finishing Line Press that came out this year, and Crossing Hate, which came out last year from Jambu Press. She is currently teaching at USF.
Yay! And I love it.
I was looking more than listening. Each of Virginia's poems is flooded with light, color, and sensory detail. They are the activity of an eye intent on seeing more of everything in the range of vision. Virginia loves earth and birds and the luminous bodies of the heavens. There's a pure sense of wonder in her observations, an abiding sense of the interconnectedness of all things. I feel like these poems are as essential as food and air, a way of organizing the universe by constellation, flock, tribe. Virginia's affinity for Emily Dickinson is not driven by metrics but by openness, and the field of composition for her is expansive, with the rules constantly being tailored to fit the singular occasion rather than repeating the formal gestures in the name of consistency. Her consistency is the play and variation of line, stanza, and diction. Please welcome Virginia Barrett.
Look what Micah set up for us. What do you think is in here? Stay. Thank you, Doug. I am blessed to be teaching here, and you know, when you are about to do a reading, you think, okay, what poem should I choose to read? And the course I'm teaching is Poetry International, but with a focus on visual poetry. So I thought tonight I would focus on, I would focus on poems of mine that have something to do with art. I'm a visual artist as well, so you'll hear that thread running through. And I'll start with 3 from Crossing Hate. These are San Francisco poems. Celebrate our city. How's my sound? Is it okay? Mm-hmm. I like to start with this one. I wrote it in my art studio, which was just down the hill. 2 wooden mannequins, cityscape. We bent our limbs into every awkward angle. often breaking them. What is the stroke of the stick burning, the charcoal smudged? We read the secret codes of workers on the sidewalks, the X's and dots of our lives. Disorder is an ordering, but sometimes calls the cat to the broken blinds. Do you remember what it's like to write even one love letter? I miss the sound of crickets outside your window. We are never winnowing now, but bury our faces in the decaying shapes. How many times have I been towed because I didn't think I had to pay attention to signs? Why always this longing for a home, the weft of want under and over our spacious human loom? Once I drew bright pictures with pastels of all the mythic animals migrating in your eyes. I forgot to check my start time. This one comes from a painting by one of my favorite artists, Henri Matisse, and it starts with an epigraph from him. Do I believe in God? Yes, when I am working. Self-portrait in watercolor at 29, standing odalisque reflected in a mirror. I wore only a sarong, pale turquoise with yellow stripes, tied loosely around my waist. A beaded necklace, amber and blue, fell between my breasts. The closet door opened to angle the mirror right. I rested my shoulder against the wall. I remembered my unease with a photograph of the artist as an old man, seated but leaning on his cane, studying the convergence of his standing model's thighs. Watercolor is an unforgiving medium. The paper as light, as space, as the color white. Overworked and the image gets murky. Was Matisse gathering the lines of perfect communion in his gaze? I can still hear the whacking of the great cable on Jackson, moving the cable cars that day. The conductors ringing rhythms with the bells as the fog lifted, and then a stroke of sunlight on my skin. The first apartment I lived in San Francisco was on Jackson and Taylor, right where the cable car goes by. So I lived with that, if you know that sound, and then it would end at 1 a.m. I think, and I'd be like, oh, now I can go to sleep. Last one I'll read from this collection is more of a prose poem, and it's after an Edward Hopper. If you're familiar with his solitary figures, this is one of a woman riding in an old-style train compartment. And it starts with a quote from the Young Museum's catalog on the San Francisco Summer of Love. Did anybody see that exhibit? It's a fun exhibit to go to. So in their brochure they wrote, rock poster artists such as Rick Griffin, Alton Kelly, Victor Moscoso, Stanley Mouse, and Wes Wilson generated an exciting array of distinctive works featuring distorted hand lettering and vibrating colors. Compartment C, car 193, 1938, after Edward Hopper. A green compartment of varied shades. She reads the script, takes little notice of the space. Midnight blue, her dress matches her hat. The brim sweeps over her face, concealing her eyes. But no one needs to see her eyes. They are on the page. She is alone. Solitude, the muse for now. Where is she going? The sun sets in the rectangular window. darkened hills, an arched bridge over its own small river. White snow on the side, white as the page she reads. The play will never be produced. Maybe she will choose the script still on the seat beside her, the script of her parallel life. He might have painted her as a dancer doing a striptease across the stage, breasts flung forward, nipples red as cherries to be picked. Or a woman staring at her polished fingernails, red too, in an all-night diner where the cook and the man she just met talk eternal baseball. They will never know who won. On a closer look, they are not scripts she reads, but pamphlets by Swiss chemist Dr. Albert Hoffman. Seeking a blood stimulant, he is the first to synthesize LSD. She has a rare disease slowing her circulation. This made her parents overly protective despite her stylish air. She is painfully shy. She will never try LSD, dying before it becomes widely distributed, but her daughter will. Her daughter will be an artist in San Francisco who uses psychedelic designs to promote rock shows at the Fillmore. Men will dominate the market, but her daughter will possess a strong drive and a flair for color no one else can match. Here, in compartment C, a man is about to enter. He will use a line from a movie to engage her. When she looks at him, she thinks of Errol Flynn in Robin Hood and is smitten. The pamphlet falls from her hands. The shade on the window is lowered. The canvas goes slack. All the muted tones become intense and intertwine. I'll move to between looking. You always wonder what Edward Hopper's folks were doing after the painting. Here's two parallel poems, white and black. White, morning overcast, white deer, under a near white sky. Damp white daisies here and here. A bush full of white star shapes I can't name. The path through the forest is marked by white paint on the rough bark of trees. At night, owl is white, and the space in our eyes through which he flies. Black. In the lowering light, I watch a lone deer cross the dry grass. Tail the same black as the crows which keep calling from far off trees. Columns of black. Last night, no stars. Another bad dream. My pupil in the mirror, the bull in the field, the quail's single black head feather bobbing near the bush with the black striped bees. This poem, black cursive in a black journal. Beside me, blackberries picked along the path. This next one's after the painter Amedeo Modigliani, and it's of his common law wife, Jean. It's called Jean. Get my French going tonight. No. Oh, if I'm gonna get my French going. Last picture. She is long-suffering, yet patient, the text says, painted by him with unmistakable warmth and understanding. She is plump with his child, her skirt a blue swell below crossed wrap carmine, full white sleeves. He will die soon of tubercular meningitis, of alcohol, drugs. The day after his death, she will throw herself from a 5th-floor window, leaving their first child orphaned. Her eyes are light blue ovals, no pupils. They see without seeing, the blank sky to come, the narrowing space she will slip through. This one brings up Van Gogh, and it has the title of my book in it, see if you can hear it. Still Life with Rain. My rain today, mine I call it, because it comes so little here. And don't precious things make us ache to possess them more? How to write the sound of tires on a wet road, a kind of textured swooshing promises its own lisp. I hear a crow. His feathers, a glistening sable, I imagine, hold a haunting undercurrent, but hints of purple luster invite melancholy too. I washed the windows this week. Now the storm washes them again. I might have waited to see if the weather report came true, but I like my view to be clear. Looking out on this dead-end street, which once merged with another named after a Mexican alcalde of Yerba Buena, murdered by a vigilante. And yes, a murder is also a family of crows. I live alone, with ample time today to admire Van Gogh's wheat field with crows, in a book borrowed from the library, a menacing blue sky, yellow-orange field, black crows converging like a great swarm of giant locusts, a red path leading nowhere, intensified by thick green bands of grass. One of his last paintings, the text says, it signals his suicide. But to me, it's a manic comfort, the irrefutable grandeur of the land. Van Gogh said, the painter of the future is a colorist such as there hasn't been before. In truth, describing himself. As I try between looking to capture the day, what do I want from the rain? What am I doing that time? Let's end with sort of, I'll end with a self-portrait because I sort of started with it. Can't write too many self-portraits, right? Here's a self-portrait as the landscape painter in Italy, and it's after Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot. Overwhelmed at first by the light, I returned to see these places again and again, discovering the nuances of color on the rocks, the trees, the land, variations of aspect depending on the time of day. I write home to my mother, all I really want to do in life is paint landscapes. I adore all my views. I fall into the terrain's vast temple. Rivers, hills, sky. I rise at dawn, find vague forms behind a great white veil. I paint. Everything smells sweet until the sun begins to sear the earth and I see too much. Only the intangible is splendid. But what is devotion if not a burning for the divine? Thank you.
is the author of Mother Tongue Apologize. She is the winner of the Red Leaf Poetry Prize. And we have been very fortunate to have Preeti in our writing community since she left her successful job in marketing and decided to, follow her dream. While she was here, there was this extraordinary flourishing, a remarkable growth and courage in her work as she tackled subjects such as grief, family, sexuality, sexism, and feminism. These are but the various occasions from which her poems start and defy the convention. Her use of humor to combat the social ills of society is refreshing. As she writes so eloquently, humor has a thing for dark spaces. Preeti takes risks, juxtaposing a hospital visit, for example, with a sign that reads, "Is your love insured?" Or writing a poem that takes quite literally the idea of doggy-style sex. I won't say more. Her humor violates the sacred in ways that feel enlightening, liberating, and in the depths of grief, she manages to redeem and celebrate her mother's life. How can one collection hold together so many disparate parts? Yet it does. The poems in this collection feel like blessings bestowed by a benevolent universe. Please welcome Preeti Pankali.
I think I love saying sex because I was never allowed to say it at home, so I just write sex in every book. But yeah, it's right. What are we if not writing about our mothers? That's, I think, one of the biggest factors that got Sage and me together. In 2016, on the 9th of May, when I got Micah's letter, I was sitting in my office contemplating if I should go or not, and I went and spoke to my then boss, and she was like, "Preeti, twice a week, only 3 hours, and that, whatever, every day, this makes no sense, you'll be completely destroying your career." She was obviously looking out for me, but I haven't regretted even one day after having moved. And I'm so happy that I get to read on campus. This entire book was developed over my time at the MFA program, and it would have been impossible without Doug and Bruce, who's not here right now. Thank you so much. Let's hear it for him. Thank you. I wrote this book, like I said, for my mother, and who we lost in 2008 to a very long and painful illness. Unremembered. One way of bringing you back is to observe your garlanded frame as art, dying, obsolete, unappreciated between origami and handmade candles. Another is to bring back the heat of imitation leather from hospital guest beds. Who knew waiting rooms were carriers of sweaty fevers, making it impossible to see dream from memory? What could I have said to raise you from the dead? What do volumes of elegies contain that I don't? Their own inabilities to say the unsaid to the one who will unsee, unhear, untouch, unmove, understand. I am trying to backpack through the geography of a future without you, my compass, and no one has written a Lonely Planet guide titled 100 Getaways Without Mother. Or let's produce a reality TV show for contestants to adventure through losses on a shoestring budget. Today, you're not allowed to take the deceased name. Today, you're not to remember the way she smiled when she said yours. You cannot hold faith as a torchlight over reality's head. You will be disqualified if you re-enter the symmetry of this world with longing as your wild card. For your last challenge, you must dump all the vanishing remains into a glass exhibit and create an event of everything that is. Label it walls. Thank you. clap. This is our currency, thank you. Okay. This is a new poem. New shit, please. Chautha, meaning the fourth day after the funeral. In this dream I have of her, she still hasn't lost her hair. When she arrives, she doesn't speak. In this dream, she doesn't speak, she stands still as if for a fitting. Still as I stood at 6, baby teeth missing, as she measured the holes of my arms for the robot costume. Her silence is prudent and willful, as if she would be taxed per word she spoke. Time sits between us, getting colder like the suggested minutes for thawing on a recipe. I tell her, don't worry about me, Mama. I am like super wise now. In 4 days, I've been reading the Gita and shit all the heavy-duty parts. And Lord Krishna says the body is only a vehicle. I mime the soul its driver. She looks at my steering hands and back at my face, the way she looked at me when I faced my first stage. She taught me how to be a robot in 1993. As she fixed the tin-foil head on me, I rehearsed my speech, its opening line, I am the pinnacle of the human mind. I wake up feeling like something between a god and a robot. But in the dream she doesn't speak, she looks at me the way I saw her from under my guise. As we waited in the wings, and she kept pricking tiny holes in my tin head, making several inconspicuous openings for me, so I could keep on breathing. Thank you. Go back to the book a little bit. Relationship status. Humor has a thing for dark spaces. Else how can you explain me kissing my then boyfriend hard as the flight blackened for takeoff? The flight I was taking to go see my sick mother. I'd find out on landing that she passed away when my tongue was busy sampling lust. I reached home and gargled my mouth with all my lungs as if guilt can be rinsed and emptied into a sink. What else is space but a body of dark humor, tied to physical affection like artificial life support? How else can I explain why I overloved every boyfriend after her, with a fondness reserved only for mothers? What spilled itself outside the margin? I'm in love with cocktails that taste like cough syrup. I would marry a piece of ginger if it were willing. The boy from Tinder who works in climate change cancelled last night. It was supposed to rain. How do we sleep and snore with what we know about heartbreak and politics and everything that dies in between? In my head, I look like Deepika Padukone. She's a Bollywood starlet. You should be Googling her right now. She has sexy eyebrows. That's what you need to know. If not all of her, I can ask the beauty parlor lady to shape my eyebrow like Deepika's. In my head, I run 5 miles for 4 days each week, every day marked with a golden asterisk on my desk calendar. One boy from Tinder got a full-blown anxiety attack when we were drinking tea. He'll never get to taste my cough syrup, love. To date or not to date, masturbation is becoming more painful than a labored metaphor. A good vibrator is expensive, as is organic almond butter. Does abstaining lead to weight loss? I asked Mr. One Night Stand if I should turn around. You liked me turned around. Once, you liked me. I licked One Night Stand's toes like I would have licked almond butter. Sex is a barometer for standard size school. To think that mother was admirably pretty and yet monogamous. Say 3 Hail Marys quick. I must take my mother's photo off the wall I face when I masturbate. This is not what mother would have wanted. To be this self-aware, to be this foolish. Thank you. I don't know if you remember that, but you gave us a prompt in class when we were complaining that sometimes first lines of poems are fantastic and the rest of the poem is a dud. And Doug told us to write a poem which was just a compilation of first lines. So this came out of that. Self-portrait as first lines. My thighs are the train's general compartment, everyone get on board. The uncle who holds my waist like nursing his whiskey glass and says, you're too attached to yourself. A woman lives as a woman observing herself from the outside. From the outside, it looked like we had such a healthy sex life. The day he asked for a video of me pissing, I bought the smaller size dress to look the part. How are you still so tight? The jump to zip the fat under my jeans button. Intimacy really gets me off. And the man who gropes my big bum on the bus, and the man who pretends to find his keys near his groin. A knife under my pillow where milk teeth were hidden for wishes. To come true, I wish I hadn't shown him that part of me. Favorite position? Low self-esteem. A girl and her razor walk into a bar. Vitamins, masturbation and poetry thrice a day. Love and marriage like clock hands, one chasing another, brush twice a day. I care if I'm kissed. A stand-up comic once said to me, you have perfect porn star boobs. How do desire and repression mate? Always in a trial room, I. A series of reflections who won't talk to each other. Thank you. Perfect. It opened exactly to the page I wanted to read. What of love? No, what of it really? My mom makes breakfast, lunch and dinner. My father goes to his sari shop. My mom deals with my exam atrocities. My father asks, will you come first this time in class or not? My mom turns prayer beads 1,188 times for an easy question paper. My father goes to the shop. My mom makes a feast at the drop of a guest. My father brings me firecrackers for Diwali. My mom cries and whimpers. My father raises his voice. My mom does too. I cry. My father asks, have you learned this crying drama from your mom? We don't have a carpet in our house, but if we did, sweep, 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 everything goes under. My mom is married to a kitchen, my father to his shop. I learn up the words to the latest love song. This is what I know of love, mostly. Okay, I'm going to do this experiment because I haven't done it before. Over the summer, I started writing what will eventually become a sonnet crown. I'm kind of 70% there. So every last line becomes the first line in some variation. You'll keep hearing it repeating. And number 5 is a ghazal. You'll hear it. Okay. I want my mother, I want a man, I want a daughter, I need a man. Do I? I want love. Want a man to love me as my mother. Me as my mother, I want a me as my mother. I want me to love. I want to love me. Me, a want. I wanted to be taller once. Fairer, leaner, lighter, be a keeper. Still want to be smaller, thinner, want to be stiller, wanted. I want the lonely inside me wanted. I want my mother back from the dead. I want to mother, so mother is not past tense. Not memory, action. I want action. I'm tense, I'm 33, I want sex. I want a girl to mother, I mean to love. I want all the girls I have being to sleep without the sleep talk. Need them to stop crying, I need the girl who asks me questions to keep on going. I keep that girl in my lonely. She keeps growing when I am still. I keep mother in my lonely. She keeps growing when I am still. Today she is alive for her 46th birthday. Today she is a flash montage of all the lunches she packed. She's made it to 50, Without a single grey hair, she still believes her rosary can save her, that her God has ears and her silence volume. Today, her unused passport gets its first stamp and she flies to me alone economy light. Calibrates time zone differences, each trisection on her fingers becomes an hour. When she lands, she says, "The water, it's so much bluer where you are." At 60, I give her anxiety instead of grandchildren. She irons each box pleat in my skirt the way she stressed her voice when she read to me the moral of every Aesop's fable. Each morning she shushes the crows, shuts windows so I can write. At night, I wake knowing I'm alone in my attic room of absences. At night, I wake alone, again in my attic room of absences, grey sea of carpet, side of books, unused condoms, unopened jar of lube, unlovedness hangs by my bed, larger and brighter than 55 inches of my smart screen. Out of ways to satiate my body, a lobby of miscellaneous emptiness, I argue, but akelapan is a superpower, Dada. Hard-selling solitude to my grandpa on Skype as he ballads his own brand of 89-year-old loneliness. I pitch isolation to him and myself. The way my father pushes slow-moving sari patterns to the deal-hungry women eyeing the mannequins in his sari shop. I drape stillness over me like the comfort of a made-up memory. It is the last time my mother hugs me. I'm not tilted with teenage embarrassment. Her hair is henna, her fingers knife cuts. I recreate her body like fanning a weak flame. This time, I hug her back. I recreate my mother's body, make a flip book of her hands. Kneading, cutting, peeling, measuring, whisking, thinning, brooming, serving. I am sick with remembering. My memory by now is a cleaning rag forgotten on a clothesline, hardening in the sun. I tickled her once with a feather under her napping nose. Wake up now, it's that hour when we switch on the lights and play. I mean pray. Pray to the mind of the mother who knows how to erase. Ink of a school uniform, travel sweat off a shirt collar, turmeric of silk. Here I stand, at the door of whichever laundry heaven you're hiding in. I am dust and spill and stain and stubborn. You are salt or vinegar or the hot pink bottle of vanish. Grease like grief sleeps under my fingernails. I rustle our fabric, a mother-daughter blend. It bleeds in my tired hands. I rustle our fabric, a mother-daughter blend. In my tired hands she places every morning 5 almonds, or at dinner, deboned fish, pills, prasad, her sturdy hand. 9 and toothless, I dance to Haathon mein no chudiyan. She's ready to be a bride, raved an aunt. I clinked shiny bangles in my chubby hands. In Economics 101, they teach us demand flattens when supply increases. Untrue for over-the-clothes kisses, my breast, his nubby hand. What are your kinks? Are you into three-ways? Have you been chained? I filter the body from the roles it plays, make understudy of my muddy hand. All my girlfriends with their body clock anxieties on board the wedding train. To buy his brand of forever, I sell him period sex. Say, I love it with my bloody hand. Year of infidels, years of casual, year of the asshole, being, worshipping and eating. Fuck the cheat, kill the white purge, marry your own worthy hand. Like the last row on an optometrist chart, love for now is unclear. A line only just beyond your reach, you will soon write Preeti with the same unsteady hand. Family is a line just beyond my reach. My heart is a child on its knees, fixing a toy soldier. My mother is a soldier with a ladle for a sword. My father says sun, but it comes out all sword. Isn't the sun fucking tired of being all sunshine? How could the light fall equally on her book of hymns and his snoring rage? That summer, I wanted to hug them both, sleep in the middle. I promised to stay invisible as that superhero, Mr. India, whose only give was being seen through red. See me through the blood I am composed of, cold, clotted chaos. Would you call the street view of my home abusive if a hand was raised, but nobody injured? For daily exercise, I jump the rope of childhood barefoot. The floor is hot. My hand is blister and muscle memory. My skipping breath, the thin line between forgotten and forgiven. The thin line between forgotten and forgiven. A bouquet of red denials where apologies should have been. When my best match hit me and my waxed body was still hopeful like a convent of schoolgirl desires. With what face then can I ask my mother why she didn't leave her own marriage boxing arena? Not for love, certainly. In my family, if you're a wife, love is a sign in, sign out register. A chorus of curfews, a sargam of surveillance, dear Bollywood. Where is the revenge drama of the gutsy mother who cleans mirrors to wipe off the persistent itch of a flea? Dear rom-com polluted heart, when will you stop squatting in dark places? Instead, why can't you breathe love like holding a newborn and maybe sing it a song? Why can't you learn a way to say love and not have it mean loss? In this poem, you say love and it doesn't mean loss. It means you don't miss your departed mother every day and don't think yourself terrible for it. Meaning, your father hasn't given up on singing duets in the bathroom, his voice booms clean and continuous as the first monsoon. Don't correct him when he missings fate as faith. Let the color of your nostalgia lighten. Become a property of air, formless as strokur, the Icelandic word you learn for a column of steam rising from a natural hot spring. In this poem, she is an inverted U, a bridge over a reflecting pond. Let her flow like the brush of an impressionist through you, once a weapon of razor claws and gritted teeth, your grief is beginning to blunt at one edge. As a needle's eye, it now allows for passing, for a syllable of light. And this is the last one. A syllable of light on your own feet, you are the only daughter of pride and prayer. Girl with rough soles, worn-out sneaker, you are seeker of word and wonder. The aunt who says, come in, the water's fine. Sun on your back, folded maps in backpack, you're a fortress of lost hair ties and open goodbyes. Your faith is a blinking cursor, a chapel in a hospital, the last drifting wish on a cold pillow you follow. The still by day, by stars, the still broken. Like a gallant stallion, your adrenaline pumps burn bright small light with your ecosystem of fear and desire. You devotee of dust that indents the supplicating forehead as it kisses the earth, chin in chest, I see you bow. Now rise. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to the bookstore that made my book available. If anybody wants it, I'd be so happy to sign it. Thank you, Doug, for having us. Thank you.
So once again, books are for sale over here. Please do come over and get a book, get it signed, get all of the books. That's why we're here, to produce work. And before I forget, lest he should sneak out, I want to acknowledge the presence here of Edward Mycue, a stalwart member of the literary community. Ed was responsible for my first chapbook before I was a professor here, and worked at Stacy's Books for years and years downtown. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you all, and one more round of applause for